Hello, queens. I am coming to you today with a little bit of a life update, some juicy news from my life, and I just felt like I wanted to share it with y'all. So, I got married over the weekend, and it was a bit of a whirlwind, which is funny because we've been engaged for almost 3 years, but the way that it all went down was a little crazy. And it was so perfect. And I don't know if there's going to be many lessons in this episode, which is fine. I really just wanted to come on and share with you guys because even if it feels like I'm talking to myself, I know that you guys are out there listening. And I hope that, something in this episode just like either sparks joy in you, sparks hope in you, gives you permission, whatever it may be. Or maybe you just want to know what's going on in my life. So, regardless, I'm going to share it with you anyways. So, have coffee with me while I still stand in my PJs and talk to you about this weekend. So if you don't know me personally, my partner, he hates the term, but my partner, it feels appropriate to say partner because he really is such a equal, not, it's not always equal, right? Sometimes we have to give and take, but he feels like so much more of a partner than like other people I've dated in the past, where it felt like I was always giving more than I was receiving. But with Rob, my partner, now my husband, I'm gonna have to get used to saying that. It just feels so much more equal. It feels like there's so much more like reciprocity in our relationship, which is something that I really, really love about him. Is he is just such a thoughtful, caring human and does such an amazing job just like, trying to take care of me because I take care of him. And I think that's a good relationship dynamic, is where you can both give and take and know when one person maybe needs a little bit more that day if you have some to give, and like vice versa. So tangent there, but Rob and I have been engaged for almost 3 years. November would have been 3 years. We've been together 9 years. We met in medical school while he was getting his chiropractic degree. I was getting my naturopathic degree. We met the first day of school. We bonded over dissecting a dead body together. We were in Cadaver lab together. So if you're listening to that and you're like, wow, that's fucked up, that's what you need to know about Rob and I, is that we met and we really just bonded over the fact that we both have a pretty dark, like fucked up sense of humor. We just had like such, like we could kind of oscillate between like goofy messing around conversations and then like jump into just like deep intellectual conversations, deep, just like not surface level conversations, even from the very get-go. And that was something that I hadn't really experienced with another man before. And when we first met, I like immediately was drawn to him. He wasn't, he's not like the physical type that I typically go after. I told him this, he knows that. I'm not his type either, So if you have a type, maybe consider shopping outside of your type if you're still looking for a partner. He wasn't physically what I would typically find myself going for. I usually would date guys who were like over 6 feet tall and like built like a refrigerator. And I think some of that was honestly coming from my own self-consciousness, like being a little bit of like a broader shouldered woman. Like I'm short, I'm a short queen, but I'm not like super small, and I've always been a little self-conscious about being bigger than my male partner. So I think I would, naturally just kind of stay away from men who were like a little bit more lean. But Rob, just being this like former cross-country track boy, lean as a bean. He's 5'11", he's under 6 foot. So like normally I would have disqualified him if I was going just based off of my type. But the connection that I felt with him right away, just even from like a chemistry perspective, it was so intriguing to me. And I actually had a really bad first impression of him. I don't need to get into too many stories because I'll sit on here and talk to you guys all day long. But my first impression of him was that he was arrogant and like rude, because I followed him after one of our classes because I noticed that he left his water bottle in the classroom that we were in. And the way that our schooling was set up was like the first year of classes, we had a lot of them together. So we were seeing each other often. This was the very first day of school. And I went up to him and I'm like, hey, I think you left your water bottle in like the room. Is this yours? Like, I just wanted to give it back to you. And he goes, yeah, thanks. Like, I was like, okay, my name's Jenny, bye. And I was like, wow, that guy was like not very friendly. He was kind of like standoffish and rude when I just like really tried to do something nice for him. And mind you, I was like deep in my people pleasing days at this time. So like I probably just wanted to give him his water bottle back just to like be helpful and, fulfill those people pleasing tendencies. Anyways, this is going to be a lot of tangents. Please just hang in there with me, ladies. So I like didn't have a great first impression of him, but then we ended up getting put in the same group together for anatomy lab. And if you've ever been to medical school or any other intensive like graduate program where you have to dissect a body together, you know that you're placed in a group. You spend so much time with the people in your group. So I got placed with him, and like a part of me was like, ooh, I'm excited, because like even though I felt like he was kind of arrogant, I was very intrigued by him. He is like very reserved, very like stoic in his ways, and for me, being an extroverted like fucking people pleaser, like make friends with everybody person at the time, I was like intrigued by him. So we got put in this group together. We ended up like starting to spend a ton of time together, just with studying, with being in classes together. And I just noticed like the more that we would talk, like the just like the depth of conversations that I would have with him were so much different than any other man I'd ever, dated, any other man I'd ever like interacted with. And mind you, I had a boyfriend at the time that was living at home. Oops. I ended up breaking up with him a month into school, which makes sense now. But we just started developing a friendship, and I think, across the board of my friends and the people that I really love and respect their relationships, I think friendship is always a key like component of like either starting out as friends, and like letting that build, or they have a deep like friendship like connection, but also obviously you need sexual chemistry and attraction and all of that as well. So we just like started becoming friends. We started hanging out more often. We started like going to the park together. We started going to like the grocery store together. We started working out together. And basically I was like, this guy's my boyfriend, but he wasn't. And I remember like 3 or 4 weeks into school, a good friend of mine, she had asked me like, are you and Rob gonna date? And at the time, like he had not really like told me that he was interested. We were just like hanging out as friends. We were studying together, all these things as friends. And I remember distinctly saying, and it sounded absolutely insane when it came out of my mouth, and like still to this day, I remember being flabbergasted and shocked that I said this, but I was like, yeah, I think we're going to date. But if I date Rob, I'm going to marry him. And this was like 3 weeks after meeting him. Sounds kind of crazy, right? I was like, and she's like, really? And I was like, yeah, he's just not the kind of guy that I would date casually and then just like move on from. I knew 3 weeks after meeting him, I was like, I literally said this. If I date him, he's the kind of guy that you date and you marry. And I'm going to marry him. And I had never, ever, ever felt that way about anybody before. And I know this sounds like so cliche and gross, honestly, like, ew. But it just is what it is. Like I was 3 weeks into knowing him, and I knew that there was something underneath the chemistry that we had, underneath the conversations that we were having. And like we went on being friends for a while. But in the back of my mind was that conversation with my friend of like, if I date him, I'm going to marry him, because I knew that with what I had felt with him, and I hadn't felt that with anybody before, I was like, I know if I date him, it's going to be serious and it's going to be long term. So here we are. I was right. I would just like to say that I was right. We went on like dicking around for the next like 9 months. We just stayed friends. I got blackout drunk and told him I loved him one night. He got scared shitless, rightfully so. And like pulled back, put me in the friend zone for a few months. We don't need to get too far into that. It's actually just like ridiculous the way that it played out. We would spend every waking moment together, whether it was in class or going to the gym together, going to the park, going to the grocery store. Like we were dating, but just Rob wasn't aware of it. So I got drunk, professed my love for him, didn't remember the next day. This is why I don't drink anymore. I make bad decisions when I get drunk, but this one worked out, but we would just like have this banter. Like banter is the best word I can use for it. I know that's a term they use a lot in like the UK, but like banter is like being able to go back and forth with each other, being able to like volley off of one another, being like sarcastic and like kind of shitty to each other, but just like having the best time with like, it's just like very flirty, very fun. So we kept on going in that way, and he friend zoned me for a few months, and then had a little bit of a come to Jesus moment, I suppose, and told me a couple months later that he had feelings for me, and like he was just overthinking it and didn't want to mess up our friend groups because we hung out with all the same people, and like he was just overthinking it. Classic Rob. He's the best, but he's great at overthinking, and so am I. So we didn't date for, we were friends for 10 months, almost a year, before we like officially started dating. And that was 9 years ago. And we started dating, and it just, yeah, it just like clicked, because we had that friendship connection first. And I would not trade the way that we started dating for anything, because I feel like it really set us up for such a beautiful connection. Because we still have banter, we still goof around with each other, we still, have those friend elements, but also, you know, eyebrow raising. We have, beautiful chemistry in other areas that like we would explore when we were drunk. Like we would make out with each other and everybody would be like, why the fuck aren't you guys dating? Be like, hey, we're just friends. It was so stupid. So stupid. To any of my friends listening, who witnessed us in school, I'm so sorry. It was just so stupid. But it all played out the way that it needed to. So long story long, we dated, been together 9 years. We got engaged 3 years ago. And neither of us really was taking the initiative to plan a wedding. Like neither of us wanted to plan it. Neither of us wanted to pay for it. And we just kept finding ourselves procrastinating. We would always check in like, hey, you still want to get married, right? There's not like a reason why we're not doing this. And we'd always come to the agreement of like, yes, we still want to get married. But like we were like playing chicken, neither of us really wanted to take that next step and like start the planning process. And collectively, we have been to 30 weddings together. I am not joking. I tallied them all up. Over the last 9 years, we've been to 30 weddings as guests. And I think what that has given us is just this insane perspective of what we've watched our friends go through, what we've witnessed as guests of these weddings, and also we've just gotten so much clarity on the things that we wanted versus didn't want. And ultimately, we ended up getting married in a very ridiculous kind of shotgun fashion after being engaged for 3 years. Because another long story, I'll shorten this one. Rob needs surgery, and therefore he needs health insurance that can cover his surgery. We're both self-employed. We don't have typical health insurance. And in the United States of America, you can't get health insurance anytime that you want, which is fucking stupid if you ask me. So you have to have a qualifying life event to pay for life insurance or for health insurance. So getting married is a qualifying life event. So a few months ago, Rob had asked me, he was like nervous about asking me this. He's like, would you be willing to, get married so that I can get insurance? And I just laughed. I'm like, of course. Like, I want to marry you anyways. And such, both of us are such like recovering people pleasers, good girl, good boy. I think we had so much pressure built up in our heads of like how you're supposed to get married. You're supposed to have the wedding. You're supposed to, do it this certain way. And everybody had told us like, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, but you can't really. I mean, you can, but in our minds, we were like, you can't, because families have opinions. If you invite this person, you have to invite that person. You have to, both of our families wanted us to do it in a church. We don't currently go to church anymore. Like we have our own thing. And so there was just so much noise around planning a wedding that I think both of us were just avoiding it, not because we didn't want to, but not that we didn't want to get married, but because we didn't want to have a wedding, and neither of us was willing to admit that, because we had watched all of our friends get married and have these big, beautiful weddings, even like smaller, beautiful weddings, but it still looked like so much work and stress and planning. And I think deep down, both of us knew that we didn't really want that, but neither of us was willing to like come to terms with that and just say it out loud. I think we both had a lot of fear of like disappointing our friends and family, of not doing it the way you're quote supposed to. So fast forward, we've been to 30 weddings together, watched all of our close friends get married, aside from a few that are like, in the works. And we've gathered beautiful intel of all the things we wanted, didn't want. And we had this idea like, okay, let's just do a smaller thing. And we were still procrastinating that. And as my lovely mentor, Sam Warren, points out, procrastination is made up. And if what you are wanting to do is in alignment, you won't procrastinate it. Like procrastination is just your body's way of telling you that like something's not in alignment. Like you need to take that a little deeper. I used to use procrastination as a fear of like from a fear of failure. Of like, if I put off doing this, I don't have to fail at it. But now it's like with this wedding thing, it was like putting it off, because neither of us actually really wanted it. We wanted to be married. We wanted to have a ceremony. We want to have a party, which we will. But neither of us actually wanted to do it the traditional wedding route, which is very on brand because neither of us is very traditional. The way that we started dating is not traditional, getting drunk and telling somebody you love them and then, friend zoning and then getting together a few months later, being together for 9 years and not being married. There's a lot of things about our relationship that are not traditional. So like, why, just keep with the trend. So a couple months ago, Rob had brought this to me, like, would you be willing to get married? I know this probably isn't what you envision. Like, and he was like apologetic about it. And I'm like, babe, I don't think I want a wedding. Like, I think I was just holding on to this ideal of like, I should do it because all of my friends did it, because my parents wanted me to do it. But I've never been the girl that's like dreamed of her wedding. I dream of having a massive party with my friends and just dancing my ass off, but I can do that anytime. I never dreamed of like what my wedding would look like or what I would wear or like, and I think that's okay. So if you've been engaged and you're thinking about like wedding planning and maybe you are feeling like you don't want to do it, giving you permission to do whatever the fuck you want because it is your life, truly. And if there's anything that is like a common thread in this podcast, no matter what I'm talking about, is like you get to be authentic to you. You get to live your life for you. You get to live a life that turns you on. You get to live a life that makes you feel alive, not one that feels like you're doing it based on somebody else's rules, based on what you should do. So full permission to just do the fucking thing that you actually want to, whether it is, avoiding wedding planning or something else. I think there was a real reason why we were avoiding, and it's because neither of us really wanted it. And once we got honest with that, things just started to, fall away and fall into place. So a couple of months ago when Rob proposed this, I think it was 2 months ago at this point, we're like, okay, how do we make this happen? And I will say there was a brief moment of panic of, the pre-wedding, pre-marriage panic of like, oh my God, how is this going to change my life? Like, what big conversations do we need to have? And we kind of had to expedite a lot of those things, not only because, the wedding was coming up so fast, but also because we are very intentional with our relationship and want to make sure that we're on the same page with things. And both of us also are avoidant. And we know this about ourselves and we're working on it. But we avoid things if we can, and we're both getting better at that. But this really forced us to not avoid the hard conversations, to have them, to not avoid the planning. Like we literally had to, because we had to get it done in a month. So we decided to, do a courthouse wedding, go to the beach, get some photos, like keep it really simple, just have my twin sister, my family, my parents, Rob's parents. So we announced this to our family. Like, it was met with disappointment, of course. Both of our moms, wanted us to have a church wedding. They wanted us to invite more family, and that's okay. Permission to disappoint the people in your life, as long as you're not disappointing yourself. Because at the end of the day, once the ceremony, the vows, and everything was done, our families were so happy for us. They might have been talking smack, my mom and his mom talking smack about how we didn't get married in a church. I overheard them, but it's fine. I can deal with that. Like, I can deal with disappointing some people temporarily to have the result that I actually want. So the closer and closer we were getting to this courthouse situation, the more and more it felt like a big, like, sigh of relief of like, oh my God, this is happening. We're going to get married, what we've wanted, but we can do it our own way. We can do exactly what we want and leave everything else. You don't have to do the right. You don't have to get fucking flowers. You don't have to get matching table linens. You don't have to have bridesmaids. You don't have to have anything. And if you want that and it's intentional, amazing. Please choose what feels best for you. We have been to so many weddings at this point and have seen how each couple has really, made it their own. But also every single person across the board has had some level of having to do something to appease their parents, having to invite somebody so that somebody else didn't get mad, stress on the day itself, leading up to the day. Like, no matter how amazing and intentional your wedding is, it still comes with a price, essentially. And that's fine if that's what you want. And like, I think we both just felt this like intense relief of like, oh, okay, we can actually do just what we want. We can leave the rest. It's okay if our family doesn't agree or they don't understand. That's fine. So we planned a courthouse wedding. 2 days before the courthouse wedding, Rob called the courthouse to confirm, and they said, no, in fact, you don't have a wedding scheduled. Because all the judges were going to be out of town. So our families were already here. We had to scramble. We decided, you know what? Fuck this. We're just going to have our own ceremony on the beach because Rob told me that he liked me on the beach. We got engaged on the beach. We'd go to the beach all the time. Why not? We were planning to go get pictures there anyways. So literally less than 24 hours to go. Our families were already in town. We decided to have our own ceremony on the beach because the courthouse boned us. Rob scheduled a courthouse wedding for the day after in a county an hour from where we live because it was the only one that we could get. This is just the fun and the chaos of planning something, is that you remember that nothing ever goes to plan, and we just got to roll with it. So we went to the beach on the day that we were supposed to have our courthouse wedding. I showed up half an hour late because, if you know me, very on brand. If anybody was placing bets if I would show up, on time to my own wedding, they would in fact be wrong. Showed up late, showed up to the beach, my family, his family, a photographer that I had hired a day before. And it was beautiful. It was exactly what we could have wanted. Our families were so confused. They're like, wait, who's officiating? We're like, we are. And if you know us, and the more you get to know me, the more you'll understand that that's just very on brand. That we just decided, fuck this. The courthouse is not going to keep us from getting married. We're going to get married the next day in a podunk courthouse an hour from where we live. That's fine. We'll get that shit taken care of. We'll get the paperwork taken care of. But what matters, and the thing that has mattered across all of our friends' weddings, all of the families' weddings that we've been to, is that you find somebody who's worthwhile of marrying, and you have the people that love and support you there to witness it. Whether that's through photos, if you decide to elope completely, I respect your decision. But that is the literal only thing that matters, is that you find somebody you want to marry who's worth marrying, and you have the people in your life that love and support you, even if that's just you and your partner. Like, that love is all that matters. And we decided to just do our own vows on the beach, just to thank our families that were there for their love, their support, to say some vows to each other, to say some nice things to each other, to laugh. It ended up being interactive because my mom and, my dad and Rob's mom can't keep their mouths shut. So as we're like doing this little ceremony, we're officiating, they're chiming in. It was hilarious. Like, there's other people on the beach just chilling. It's a Thursday afternoon. But it was beautiful. It was perfect. I wouldn't trade it for anything because it was very us, I showed up late, on brand. We officiated for ourselves. We didn't bring the church into it, despite our parents' disappointment. We went to lunch afterwards, had espresso martinis to celebrate, and then we went to the beach for the rest of the day and just hung out. Then the next day we went to the courthouse, we signed the paperwork, we had our families there to watch us exchange the more technical vows, sign the paperwork, and it was pretty perfect in every weirdly imperfect way. The courthouse we went to was completely under construction, so it looked terrible, but whatever. We got married. We got married on the beach in the middle of a Thursday and officiated our own ceremony, confused the hell out of our parents, especially Rob's parents. They're like, wait, who's officiating? What's happening? What are you guys doing? And I did get some pushback from my mother. She, being a Christian woman, she's like, I just wish, God would bless your marriage. I'm a little disappointed in that. And I got to have a conversation with her and be like, you know what, Mom? I have my own relationship with God. And in that relationship, God can find me anywhere. Pretty sure God can find me on the beach and can bless my marriage. Because I know that God is, within me. God is within Rob. God is within our relationship in whatever way, shape, or form that takes place. It might look different than what my parents and his parents expected. We didn't have a religious tone to our ceremony, but I trust that our relationship is divine and divinely protected, even if we didn't get married in the church. And I am completely okay with that. It got to be deeply authentic for us. It got to be exactly what we wanted and nothing that we didn't. We got to set boundaries with our family of like, hey, we're not talking about politics today. We're not talking about any dark, depressing shit that's happening out in the world. This is a happy day. I had that conversation with both of our families before. And it was truly just such a beautiful, happy day. And I'm so glad that we did it the way that we needed to, the way that we wanted to. And we're, kind of joking that like, yeah, we got married, shotgun style so that Rob could get health insurance and get a surgery. But it ended up being such a blessing in disguise. It ended up putting a timeline on us, giving us permission to do it in the most authentic way that we were both denying ourselves of being able to do. We both thought we needed to do the normal, quote unquote, wedding thing. But this experience just really gave us permission to rip the Band-Aid off, plan it. We were procrastinating because it wasn't in alignment. Not feel bad about disappointing people, not feel bad about not inviting people, and just do it our own way. And giving you permission if you have been avoiding something, you've been avoiding a hard conversation, you've been avoiding planning something, you've been feeling the pressure to do something a certain way, like please use this episode as a permission slip to like literally do whatever the fuck you want. We married ourselves on the beach with no officiant, no permit to be on the beach. No, nothing. We had a photographer that I hired 2 days before. We had a $60 wedding dress that I found on the internet and learned how to sew so that I could sew a piece of fabric in between my boobs so they weren't completely hanging out at the beach a week before the wedding. My shoes arrived the morning of the wedding. I was dog sitting at a house 30 minutes from where the wedding was going to be. I wasn't at my own house. We had a hectic week at work. The courthouse boned us the last minute, but we still made it happen. And we were just on a little like mini honeymoon. We're going to do something a little bit more extravagant, next year, hopefully throwing a big party. But we went up north and we just had the most perfect weekend of eating great food, going to the beach, hiking, boning, sleeping in, and just having really great conversations about how far our relationship has come, how we've both shifted in the last 9 years. Like we had very intentional conversations and both came to the conclusion that A, we're happy that we got married. B, we're so happy we did it the way that we did. C, we're fucking badass for officiating our own wedding. And I think more people should do that. D, we got to make it exactly what we wanted. Leave everything else. Fuck the expectations. Fuck all of the planning and the things. And we just did what we wanted. And nobody has been upset about this decision besides maybe our parents, but that's fine. We can deal with that. We have texted people, called them, sent them pictures, and everybody's been so supportive. And I've had multiple people tell me like, you don't need to explain anything. I understand. Like you did what you wanted and what you needed to do. And like, I've even had a couple people be like, hey, I'm really proud of you. That's super brave. I'm like, really? But it is in a certain, in a way, when there are so many expectations of what you should do for a wedding. Like we basically just said, fuck that, because we had to. Again, we're kind of like forced into the situation with a timeline crunch, but we're so happy that we were, not that Rob needs surgery, but happy that it happened that way, because I think it, again, just like ripped that Band-Aid off and forced permission for us to do whatever the fuck we wanted. So let this be an episode, let this episode be a reminder and a permission slip to like rip the fucking Band-Aid off if there is something in your life that you're currently avoiding, procrastinating, feeling like you should do it a certain way. Do whatever the fuck you want, babe. I can say that with absolute certainty at this point, because reflecting on the last few days, like I don't think I would have wanted it any other way. And my sister jokingly after our little ceremony on the beach, she's like, you know what? I wasn't really sure how that was going to go, but I think it was pretty perfect. And I'm like, yeah, I think it was too. And I've said this on other episodes as well, but my relationship is the thing that I am the most proud of. And I'm definitely going to go into some more detail on some things that have come up, like leading up to this wedding, like some things that I was noticing coming up in myself and like some conversations that him and I have had about our relationship. Like, I'm going to hold space for that on another episode, but I just wanted to share a life update because that feels big and that feels exciting. And I'm so thankful to be married to an amazing man who has been absolutely so supportive of all of my growth and evolution over the last 9 years, been an amazing partner, has made me laugh so much, and just really celebrates my authentic expression. And he's come so much more into his own. He's grown so much in the last 9 years as well. And truly, like, I couldn't ask for a better person to be marrying. And I couldn't ask for more support from, my family and friends once they got over it, once my family got over it, they've been so supportive. And it was truly like the most perfect day, and happy to share the update with y'all. So I'm married. Don't know if I'm changing my last name. That's another thing. Because changing your last name on a medical license and malpractice insurance and passport and businesses and bank accounts and all the things. Oh my God, it just sounds like a lot. So if you have any thoughts on changing a last name versus not, feel free to weigh in. Happy to get perspectives. It's not like a feminist fuck the patriarchy thing, although maybe a little bit, but I'd be happy to take his last name. It's just more so like a logistical thing. Like, do I really want to do that? So if you have any input, happy to hear from you. But yeah, I just wanted to share a little life update. Got married, no big deal. Officiating my own wedding, no big deal. Do whatever the fuck you want, babe. This is your life. You should do it your way. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I'll come back with more life updates soon, more updates on some of the lessons that have been learned over the last couple weeks. But until then, I love y'all. I am sending a big hug your way, and I will talk to you on the next ep.